Greetings, this is a Timeshare Traveler. Today is episode 237. Why don't timeshares appreciate? They are real estate after all. And I'll go through that. First, I'll start off by just comparing a condo as a second home versus a timeshare. So again, I'm comparing second home versus having a timeshare. And again, then I'll go through the costs of the second home condo, and mostly focusing on the maintenance fees. I'll go through the timeshare cost equivalent, and then go through why, in my opinion, things don't appreciate. Anyway, I'll jump right into that and start talking about that now. Okay, the comparison of a condo as a second home versus a timeshare. So a one-bedroom condo has typically an HOA. You must pay for your utilities, must furnish the home, clean it up after each visit, at least I hope so, and you have access to only one location. Here's, in red, the big difference. A bank won't let you buy a condo if you can't prove you can afford it. Not just the purchase price, but the ongoing costs, because they don't want to lose the loan and have it default. Timeshare. One bedroom timeshare, utilities included, cleaning included, Wi-Fi cable included. Sometimes there's a fee for the Wi-Fi, but mostly not. Furnishing included. You have access to multiple locations as opposed to one location. Here's the difference. A timeshare is sold to anyone with minimum credit. It's more like the purchase of a car. No check to confirm that you can make the payments on an ongoing basis. And usually it's like credit card interest. So it's treated much more like a car loan, or even more so like that. So that's fundamentally the difference, and that's what drives what you see in the industry. So here's my sort of assessment of condo costs, and you can debate some of this. It's really meant as an example. Maybe it's different in your area, maybe it's a little more, maybe it's a little less, but this is what I see in some parts of California, certainly in resort areas. So ongoing costs, which is what I'm really mostly focused on, because actually the purchase cost of the timeshare points to equivalent is actually cheaper than the condo. Typically a condo is more than $500K, but the HOA is typically $500 a month. And these all go up with inflation. Heating and cooling, somewhere around $200 a month. Internet, cable, TV, water, garbage, all other utilities, typically $300 a month. So kind of total ongoing costs around $1,000 a month. And I went through that just to sort of say what's the equivalent of a timeshare with $1,000 a month in maintenance fees. So, because I wanted to try to do a comparison. Costs continue to appreciate. Utilities and HOA tend to rise at least 4% a year, maybe more. They tend to go with inflation. And ironically, that's, like I say, appreciation is similar to the rise in timeshare maintenance costs. Lately, they were a little higher, but inflation was true everywhere. The ongoing costs of $12,000 a year. And again, this is about owning 6 to 7 weeks of a timeshare. So when you try to, trying to do apples to apples from a maintenance perspective. The cost to purchase the timeshare points is likely less. Usually, my number that I'm in my head is around $300K, maybe to do that, maybe a little less than that. But that's kind of a number that you would have to do versus $500K for the condo. So you start out with less and you have maintenance, but there's some other trade-offs that you do. And let me walk you through that when I go through the timeshare costs. Okay, timeshare costs. I'm just using Hilton points just as a relative statement. So I just had to pick one of the three that I own just to go through it. So a weekend in Tahoe for a one bedroom is 3,000 points, and that's an average of the peak season and the non-peak seasons kind of thrown in just to give an average. And so some places are a little less and some places are a little more, but I picked that one just as a relatively consistent with the condo being 500,000. So 80,000 points is about $12,000 a year, and that's based on my maintenance fees. So I just kind of picked that up. So it's the same 1K per month as the cost of having the condo. So I wanted to have that. So what do you get for that? Is you get 2 weekends a month, and each weekend's 3,000 points or 6,000 points per month. That's 72,000 points for 12 months. of 2 weekends a month. And then 1 week of vacation a year. And then again, I use the points of 7,200, which is ballpark for what a one-bedroom is for 1 week. So you can look at a second home. Would you use it more than twice, 2 weekends a month? And would you use it more than a week? But that's my comparison. It says roughly the same maintenance fees. So that's the maintenance fee equivalent. So you can weigh whether you think that's real, whether you'd use it more. Obviously, a condo, you can use it as your main home. But again, I'm talking about a second home versus having a timeshare. And the purchase price, like I say, is probably less than $300K, which is well below a condo. So you start out with that fee and you have some restrictions. But again, it's a trade-off. If you look at it over 20 years, what would you do? So here's the bottom line. Why don't timeshares appreciate? Well, the reality is the supply demand, and there's a lot of people who give up on their timeshares. There may be other issues, and maybe they oversell the timeshares, and so there's just not the value. But it's been kind of a question for me, because when I compare it, I'd rather have the timeshares and the flexibility to go multiple places than having a second home be one location only. But some people never learn to use their timeshare. Training is almost non-existent. And the rules are complicated. I just was at an owner update today, and that's what one of the people was saying is I can't keep up. Whereas if you own a condo, it's the same. You know, nothing really changes, so it is actually simpler in that respect. Some people can't afford the payments. Purchases are typically $30K, whereas a condo is often over $500K. And financing, if you finance it at 15% over 10 years, which is typically, it's not secured by a deed, that's an additional $550. So that $1,000 a month actually goes up by 50%. And I'm only talking about not buying all $80,000. I'm only talking about the typical purchase, which $30,000 in Hilton land would probably get you 8,000 points. So it's typically $4 a point. So something like that, $4 to $4.50. So that would be about 7,000 points. So that wouldn't be the full amount you would need to purchase. So if you financed everything, again, it's way more than 50%. So financing, because typically it's not secured by a deed, so you're just basically a personal loan. As a result of number one and number two, the costs being higher than people understand, lots of distressed sales for financial reasons. In fact, there's even there's an industry for getting you out of your timeshare. So that as a result, there's a glut, and that means that the resale prices drop because people just want to get out of it. And seller just want to get, they're just happy to get out of it, don't want to pay their maintenance fees to get out of their loan, just, they'll pay it off, whatever they have to do. And again, it's supply and demand. So many people buy but can't afford the maintenance. And sales team is only incented to sell. So they're not incented to have a real estate salesman can't sell it unless the bank will approve it. The bank is really like a personal loan. And most people can get a personal loan for $30,000. And that's what the criteria is. If you can afford a car, you probably can afford a timeshare from the way it's financed. Again, there's almost no verification. It's treated kind of like a car. They can repossess it later, is effectively the way it's treated. So as a result, it's not treated in the same way that a home investment is, where it's an asset, and it doesn't appreciate as a result. I'd love to see this change because, quite frankly, I have gotten value out of my timeshares beyond what the value of a condo would be for me as a second home. Anyway, hope you liked the video. Give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe. Hi, this is Cliff, and I'm the Timeshare Traveler. Welcome to my channel. The purpose of my channel is to educate those who love traveling in timeshares. I've been an owner for 15 plus years at timeshare ownership. I have elite ownership with Marriott, Hilton, and Worldmark. I have published over 100 timeshare video reviews, and I've published over 95 timeshare tips. I can be found on Facebook at Timeshare Trav, at Twitter Timeshare Trav, and on the web at www.timesharetraveler.com.